For anyone else? Back to you, Chris.
Yeah, just to sort of follow up. I mean, they're putting Chromebooks in schools, and we're supposed to believe that we're teaching kids to prepare for the workforce. I mean, it's just comical because we have a lot of professionals both on the Zoom and in other places. Find me one professional that actually uses a Chromebook. So they're not actually learning the necessary computer skills, which is what they claim to be doing. And also their contracts with Google forbid them from using Microsoft Office Suite, which is actually something that they will be using in their professional lives. Again, this is extremely minor, but it just sort of shows that they can't even defend the positions that they're taking. If we actually wanted to train our students for a digitally based workforce, like we would use the tools that would actually help them. And I'm not advocating for that, but I want as few screens in the classroom as humanly possible. But just the fact that we are using these specific programs shows that it has absolutely nothing to do with preparing our kids for a workforce. It's just treating them as customers. I cede my time.
I couldn't hear you, but did you say my turn? I'm just gonna. I had a daughter in LAUSD in third grade, and when she was given a Chromebook, I was pretty impressed at the time. And she took it home, and literally the first day, her access to everything terrible was huge. I mean, she opened up the browser and she could just access just about everything. And I don't mean really, really terrible things, but I mean things that I very intentionally as a parent was like not exposing her to. And so, of course, all night, I spent hours and hours all night trying to figure out how to protect her from this thing and her access. And I couldn't do anything. So then I had to file a case with LAUSD IT because I realized you guys control the safety of that device. And I have no say as a parent. Like, I spend so much of my time thinking about how I'm going to protect my kids from these technologies, and so much time having an argument with my kids at home about using them and what they can use and how they can use it. And basically being an IT surveillance expert. That's like what parenthood has become. And so I really quickly realized her having the Chromebook was not awesome. Additionally, she was struggling to learn and struggling to thrive. So I moved her to a charter that had a more tech intentional environment and had more limited tech because really for her brain, her development and her ability to learn, that was way, way better. She's doing so much better now. But I have a kindergartner who has an iPad. And I guess my question is like, what is equitable? Like, absolutely. Oh, I ran out of time.
You can always speak after Todd. Todd first.
Hi, Dominic. As you know, I think we're finding out for the parents who have the resources and are privileged with financial resources and time resources, they're able to better protect their children from the harms that can be caused by these devices. As Julie had indicated that she was seeing trouble with her daughter and her kids, and as a result of her kids using the device, and she was able to devote time and resources to making sure that her daughter was able to get the protection that she need and get alternative learning that she need. For families that don't have those time and financial resources, Dominic, what do you suggest that they do when their children are, falling behind or are, viewing inappropriate content on their devices? Dominic, what do you suggest that those families do?
I am one person, and of course, I'm going to have to work with the district on all of these answers to your question,
You're
Todd.
you're the director of educational tech and innovation, so surely you would have thought about this
Of
when
course,
imposing
I
policy.
yeah.
So what do you recommend that families that don't have the resources to ensure that their children aren't falling behind and are being protected when they're using these devices? What is LAUSD or your ideas about how to protect them?
This will be forthcoming, Todd. Thank you.
Okay, again, this shows that the fact that you haven't thought about this shows that the gross inequities surrounding these devices. That you don't have the laid out policies, even though that these and it appears that you haven't really been thinking about these questions until now, even though the devices have been in the classroom for 5-10 years, shows that LAUSD, it doesn't appear that you're genuinely interested in achieving equity related to technology in the classroom. Am I wrong about that?
You're not wrong, but at the same time, this is exactly why we're listening to you in the first place. Why we're having this that has never been done before by the previous director of technology. So
okay, so I'm not wrong that LAUSD hadn't thought about how to roll out these devices in an equitable way.
You're not wrong to ask all these questions, is what I'm saying, and that's why we are providing this space to listen to all these questions. And we will give you not just an FAQ, but an actual work to address all of this and that change that you're asking for. Thank you. Sandra?
Hi. Sorry, I can't pop on the screen right now, but from an equity standpoint, I've been on the SSC of our LA public school system, and the budget comes up all the time. We can't afford TAs, we can't afford a librarian, we can't afford a garden, we can't afford this, we can't afford that. How much of this budget can be rolled back if you take these iPads and these computers that are clearly not helping the kids? My son is 9 years old, still doesn't have an iPad, and I was so upset because it's a constant fight. And then to find out that the school just gives them this technology that I know is not good for them is not fair. I'd rather another teacher, I'd rather another TA, I'd rather better lunches, a garden. There's so many better ways we could spend this budget that, you have to think about that. It's not fair that these teachers don't make enough money, they don't have enough assistants, and that's what these kids need, at least at the elementary level. So I feel like you really need to think about that. That's it.
Thanks, Sandra.
Sorry, I can't really hear, but I think I heard Brady. Yeah, I wanted to piggyback on Sandra's comments, actually. I was also going to speak to that, and how insulting it is, quite frankly, to offer computers and iPads and apps and AI chatbots that end up, going defunct. When people are asking for real human in-person services. So if you listen to teachers, if you listen to parents, if you listen to the people who really need these services the most, they are not asking for more Chromebooks. They are not asking for more iPads. They aren't saying, give us some more apps. Give us some more AI chatbots. Like, they are asking for smaller class sizes, more teachers, more teaching assistants, more psychiatric social workers. And for Superintendent Carvalho, as he did in the digital citizenship board meeting, to say like, well, their, counseling is online, their tutoring is online, and, it's wrong to ask that we have a lower tech evidence-based approach because it threatens these services. That's not what people are asking for. That's a substandard service. That's like when you call customer service and you're constantly getting recordings and you're shouting, speak to a representative. This is a substandard educational product that is being offered to people who need the resources most.
100%.
Julie Edwards, back to you, followed by Alicia.
I'm going to shoot it over to Alicia.
Thank you. Hi, all. Good morning. So I think everyone here is already speaking very eloquently towards the ethical, kind of education industrial complex angle. And just as a reminder, I am a art education faculty at Cal State Northridge and Cal Arts. Did my master's at NYU, and with that master's program, I specialized in equity, diversity, and inclusion, and its connection to contemporary art and critical thinking. So I've served on national task forces, as well as chaired state task forces related to ED&I, or DEIJ, whatever. The company's claims that algorithmic differentiation even, comes close to what Universal Design for Learning is asking educators to do is beyond false. It is manipulative. This is just a marketing claim. There's been decades and decades of research on the ways that multimodal education, meaning education that involves multiple senses at the same time, like eyes, ears, hands, taste, touch, smell, like multimodal education, particularly from young children, is the primary way that we learn. Social learning is the other primary way that we learn. If there is not direct human interaction, there is responsiveness without knowing the child.
Julie yielded her time to you. Feel free to continue on, Alicia.
Dope. Cool. Okay. I love that. So the claims of the company are not matching the research at all. And I think that I've already shared in previous listening sessions the ways that those claims are based on junk research, where the authors and funders of the research are technically all staff at Curriculum Associates company. Dominic, I'm truly sorry that you have inherited such a scandal, and I really hope that you can turn this around, because 10, 15 years ago when this was happening with Pearson and the Apple scandal in LAUSD, the FBI ended up getting involved. So if you're not already familiar with that drama, Dominic, you can reach out to me to hear more. You can do your research about it, but this can get really dark if we don't handle this now, and if we don't handle this in a way that actually engages parents as partners, as equal stakeholders in this decision, instead of just a source for creating a fact sheet that is going to, kind of calm us down or quiet us down. I'm really beginning to become more optimistic, Dominic, that you are going to try to do the right thing here in shifting the direction of the policy and make sure it's parent facing and parent engaged, in the true community school.
Thank you, Alicia. Maria, oh, sorry, Anna. Anna first, followed by Maria, then Jessica.
Thank you. I think I agree with everything that's been said. It's very disingenuous that the argument for tech in our schools is a lack of money when the tech costs money. And I think in terms of equity, that computer labs would be a far better way to ensure equitable access to technology, because I do think, we all agree that that understanding how to use technology well is a critical skill in the workforce. So obviously we need to teach kids how to do this, but I don't think that substandard tech devices that are really just garbage that nobody who actually works highly in their field would use for their job is what we should be giving our kids to teach them computer literacy. So spend a little more for better devices in computer labs and actually have a curriculum of computer literacy to teach kids how to use technology. That would be equity, and that would be access. And I just want to say also, at my kids' school, I've recently learned, I didn't know this, that staff at our kids' school volunteer with no pay to staff the gate at the school in the mornings. I pay them. They should be paid for their time. This is an important thing that should be happening at school. And instead, we're paying tech companies. I just think it's ridiculous. Thank you.
Maria Palma, you're next.
Yes, thank you. I am the parent of a high school graduate. My son graduated in June of last year. We had very huge concerns about the use of technology in high school. I hear many parents here of elementary school students. You have no idea what you have in store for you in middle school and high school. It will be 10 times worse. We attempted to opt out of the use of computers. And how is paper accommodated when a parent asked for that? It was extremely difficult. The principal at my school and assistant principal acted like I was crazy in requesting that and making any statements on this. And then they like to throw out this word equity as a defense. It's ridiculous. So I also have some huge concerns about asking blanket for more staff. We have more staff in the district, way more staff than we used to have prior to the pandemic. This is a budget transparency issue that I and other parents have been working for in the last few years to get the transparency. We don't have it, not at the school site level yet, even though we have the supposed budget transparency tool. It doesn't show us the funding sources that pay for each of the staff members. We don't have it at the total budget level. There are bond funds being used, so long-term borrowing from the public being used to purchase laptops. There are many other crazy budgeting issues going on. So until we have that transparency, we cannot just start out by asking for more staff. There are many, many budget issues that need to be dealt with. Please consider that.
Thank you, Maria. Dr. Smith. Jessica, you're next.
Okay, Dominic, sorry, sometimes you fade out. Hi everyone. I'm sorry I'm not on the screen. Honestly, I'm rushing between things. I wanted to mention quickly, 9 a.m. and 4 p.m. for these calls. God bless you, Dominic, for holding them. But that ensures only a certain type of parent is able to participate. So when you have a call about equity and access, but it's at 9 a.m. or 9:30 when I really am supposed to be working right now and don't tell anyone. I but I care about my kid and I care about all these kids. So that's why I'm here today. So I did want to mention that briefly to think a little bit about what time frame you are holding these calls and who can attend. So, on behalf of some of the parents in my school, my kid's a kindergartner. We just started at this school. He went to a preschool program before that. And so this is our first introduction into LAUSD. And wow, has it been wild. But I want to say just to, say that what I'm noticing about the parents at my school who are struggling the most financially, they have so much on their shoulders today to teach their kids about the harm of addictive technology. And when they're given a school issued tablet or computer, they are entrusting that y'all have done your work to prepare those tablets and those computers to be the safest possible for their kids. And so when they are not safe and when they have access to new technologies through these computers that you cannot control, then that means that it's putting more work on parents that need the most help. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Jessica. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're loud.
Thank you. Kate Brody, followed by Diana. I see your hand is up. You'll be following Kate.
Hi, I just wanted to speak a little bit about my work. I work as a private teacher, so I'm with a lot of like high net worth families in LA, people who either homeschool or go to very fancy private schools. And I've noticed a shift in the last few years away from all of this kind of bullishness around tech that's happening in those circles. That kind of undermines this argument that this is somehow like a premium or something that we're giving the kids. I think if anything, we're just widening the divide between the public school kids and the private school kids by insisting that our kids spend all day on computers while this other subset of wealthy students is moving away from that kind of learning. The family I work for now is a very high profile tech family, and they could not be more opposed to having tech be a part of their kids' education because they're pretty aware of how harmful this stuff is. So Just wanted to flag that and also echo what everyone's saying about computer labs. I would love a real tech education. I'm doing typing club at home with my son because my feeling is if they're going to be on devices all day, they have to have real skills. And what they're learning now with the edutainment on Chromebooks, it's not applicable to anything in the workforce. So that's just another thing that, again, I have to take on and I'm able to, but a lot of families are not, same as these 9 a.m. calls. And this is where I think it becomes a little annoying when the district's position seems to be that like we're coming at this from a place of privilege. Of course we are. Like no one else could do this. So it's a lot of work, and I just think that it's a lot that you're asking of parents.
Diana, you're next. And then followed by Andrea. Diana, are you with us? Yeah. Oh,
Sí.
go ahead.
Hola, buenas tardes o buenos días. ¿Sí me escuchan?
Yes. For those who are listening in English, if you choose interpretation under your options and choose English.
Sí, sí la escuchamos.
Okay.
Let me try it. Go ahead.
Okay, bueno, buenas tardes. O días más bien, disculpen. Mi nombre es Diana Guillén y yo he sido presidenta de los comités centrales de los padres y este taller se llama equidad, ¿no? Y acceso. Creo que como padres de bajos ingresos, nosotros sí hemos pedido que los niños tengan acceso a la tecnología, acceso a las computadoras, pero sí estamos mirando también que se ha vuelto no algo como educativo, sino que se convierte la computadora, se convierte en el maestro. Entonces,
Por favor, Kathleen, are you able to translate in English for us?
Yes, I'm hearing it in English.
Everyone's good?
I
Okay.
can hear it on the English translation channel.
Diana?
¿sí?
Sí.
Ok. Bueno, como ya dije, los padres de bajos ingresos habíamos pedido que hubiera, que los niños tuvieran acceso a las computadoras, a la tecnología, porque pues era algo que era difícil para nosotros brindarles, pero desafortunadamente este acceso se ha convertido ahora en el maestro de los niños. Entonces, esa no es nuestra idea de el acceso y equidad. Nuestra idea es que tuvieran el acceso para que los niños pudieran mandar un correo electrónico, pudieran entender cómo se usa una computadora, pero que no suplantara lo que es la educación de nuestros niños. Y es una de las razones por las que hicieron una de las razones por las que hicieron este taller, ¿verdad? Pues fue por la abogacía de algunos padres, pero nuestra comunidad latina no está aquí. No está, ni siquiera se meten a estos talleres porque piensan que ellos no saben, que no van a entender y realmente no se entiende. Entonces, no nos están diciendo, nosotros solo vemos que los niños están en la computadora, dicen que están haciendo la tarea, pero no es cierto. Y yo he ido al centro de padres. Yo no puedo acceder a mi correo electrónico en las computadoras de la escuela, pero los niños pueden entrar a Google, pueden entrar a todo. No sé si los niños hackean, no sé cómo le hacen, pero los niños en vez de estar estudiando están viendo videos o los maestros los mandan a ver o tienen una pregunta, le dicen ve y búscala a Google. Entonces, ¿de qué se trata esto? No, eso no es equidad, eso es suplantar. Y realmente los niños ni siquiera están teniendo una educación que les importe porque los niños no tienen respuestas de sus maestros. Les dicen vete a Google y en vez de irse a lo académico, pues claro, son niños, ¿no? O sea, o jóvenes. Yo tengo niños en middle school, he tenido mis hijos también en high school. Y cuando fue la pandemia, yo le tuve que enseñar a mi hija y afortunadamente yo sí sé usar la computadora, pero muchos padres no saben usar la computadora. Yo le tuve que enseñar a mi hija a mandar un correo electrónico y ya iba en la high school, en el 11 grado. Entonces, ¿cómo? Tenía acceso a una computadora, pero no sabía mandar un correo electrónico. Entonces, de esas cosas pienso que es lo que se trata aquí, de que no se esté suplantando la educación de los niños por una computadora que solamente es un instrumento, pero no es para ese fin. Gracias.
Diana. Thank you, Diana and Kathleen, for the translation as well. That will be followed by Andrea Sell.
Hi, I'm calling on behalf of, I've got two middle schoolers and they have accommodations 504s with the school. And when they were in elementary school, they're in it's seventh grade right now. They only had a computer lab to go to learn how to code and how to type. And now that they're in middle school, we've got a device 24/7 in their hands, which leads to emotional dysregulation and brain fatigue by the time they get home. I've worked in IT as an IT director for 20 plus years. I don't allow them to have screen time, but what they do is they have this unfettered access to YouTube and other harmful content when they get home, and they say they're doing homework. But now, as a working parent, I have to go and I have to double check on Schoology, log in as them. I have to try, it takes me hours to like make sure that they're on task. These are two neurodivergent brains who are, one was tested highly gifted and one was tested gifted, but was a percentage point from highly gifted, and they got fails on their math classes when they went to middle school. I mean, that's absolutely ridiculous. Then I've got the school telling me that accommodations only kick in when the child can feel that when the child asks for the accommodations, which the accommodations in their 504 state that they can use paper and pen and take tests on paper, and they can have extra time for homework, but they don't get it. So this is not good for anybody with a neurodivergent brain because it leads to emotional dysregulation and it kills the family dynamic. Thank you.
Before I call on the rest of the speakers, I'd like to invite Claire first, her hand up.
Hi, thank you. I'll keep it brief. My family pulled my son from the district. We are no longer attending our local school, which broke my heart as a longtime believer and educator in public schools. And we did not want our child sitting in front of an iPad day after day. We were given no alternative, and we now go to a charter school with intentional and low screen approach. You lost our funding, you lost a great family, you lost a family, not only our district-based dollars, but our fundraising support. And so that really does just emphasize that this is an equity and access issue. Well-to-do families, affluent families, people are fleeing because of this issue. You're losing our money, you're losing our efforts, and it's becoming a greater and greater divide. And Dominic, I really hope that you can really internalize where all the parents are coming from. We don't want to be put in this impossible situation. We want to support our local schools. That's why I'm here as a non-LAUSD parent, and I'm going to continue to raise my voice on this issue, even though it doesn't directly impact me. But you're only furthering and deepening inequality and access issues in the district. So thank you.
Next, we have Brady, followed by Julie, Todd, and Alicia.
Yeah, I wanted to speak to the computer science issue because on the EdTech Innovation website, there's a guide there, the California Equity Computer Science Guide. And I read through it, and there's a lot of statistics in there, which are very important to me about the inequities in computer science education and the outcomes and the impact on people's career choices. But I don't really see computer science being taught in school on the devices. So I think that's another issue that gets very muddled, where it's like where everything's being taught on a devices like math, reading, and it's there's computers, but they're not being taught computer science. And so because of that, because I also want my son to have computer skills, tech skills, I send him to a coding lesson for 45 minutes to 1 hour a week and kind of use that as like my computer lab. And I really wish there wasn't this additional time where he's learning unrelated subjects on devices. And you know, I have the privilege to send him to those lessons. And I wish that type of thing was available to all students where they could learn how to code and all of these things that are spoken about in this equity guide that I don't see happening in the schools. I see a bunch of subjects that have nothing to do with computers or technology being taught on a device.
Julie Edwards, back to you.
I'll pass to whoever's next.
Hi, Dominic. Another question about this topic. Kids as young as 4 or 5 in TK and kindergarten having YouTube Kids on their iPads. How does that achieve equity, and what's the district's like philosophy and rationale behind giving them access to those apps or programs?
Well, we do have the Google consent form, and I know many of you raised this in the previous listening sessions, but that is also YouTube is what we call additional service, and if parents do not opt into that, that's disabled or not enabled on the student's device. And that
Okay.
is something that we're working on
So
to make sure that that's actually happening.
Does YouTube Kids provide any educational services or achieve equity in terms of education?
There are teachers who use YouTube for purposes of content that they
No,
can
YouTube
share
Kids
with students.
installed on the school issued devices.
So that's something that I need to make sure to verify that that's actually in students' iPads or devices.
I mean, we're telling you, students, I think my first grader's iPad has YouTube Kids on it. I didn't sign the Google consent form. It seems that it's by default. So what's the purpose in terms of equity in education having YouTube Kids on as a default on students' iPads? Kindergarten, TKers, first graders. You weren't aware of that, Dominic? You weren't aware that YouTube was on students' iPads?
It's on a case-to-case basis, so that's something that I need to verify with ITS.
Okay. Again, it's really surprising that you're not aware. You're the director of educational technology and innovation for the second largest school district in the country. It's really surprising that you're not aware of what programs are on our students' iPads.
I'm gonna have, as I mentioned, I'm gonna have to verify because there's a process to make sure that these are actually vetted and approved, and that's something that I need to make sure to verify.
Okay, again, I'm stunned that you are not aware of the apps and programs that are supposed to be educational on our students, on our children's iPads and devices that are issued by the school and are required by the school. That's really stunning. And that the district doesn't seem to be aware. We've been asking this for weeks and weeks, asking questions like this and not getting a straight answer. And that's stunning.
What is this? Sorry, we can't hear you, Dominic. It's cutting out.
Alika, can you hear me?
Yes, awesome. Thank you. So I have to start class in 5 minutes. This is perfect. Andrea, I'm so glad that you brought up the disability and 504 issues. So one of the topics for today is equity and access. And I just kind of want to refocus on what the purpose of that language is, right? So how do we make content accessible to all students? How do we design instruction so that it's universally designed, universally accessible? there's two issues with edutech for neurodivergent and students who have emotional disturbances. And that is, one is that these populations are more addiction prone. They are more, when we have the kind of chemical imbalance of like needing a little bit more dopamine, it feels even better for us to get that gamified learning. So, and I say this as a neurodivergent individual as well, is that it is so much easier for us to get addicted to things. The gamification being used in these programs is also really undermining our ability to teach students an intrinsic motivation for learning. So that extrinsic, that external like reward, points, go buy a new background, put your character in a new outfit, whatever, because you've solved this math problem, is incredibly harmful because it doesn't give students time to develop the joy of, I can do something new, I am going to do it, and that is the reward. And this is the age to teach that.
Thank you, Olivia. Claire, followed by Mila.
I'm sorry, I'm all set right now. I don't know if you said my name, but
Okay.
I'm
Claire Martyr. Yeah.
yeah,
So
I don't.
I'll hand it off to Lila then.
Hi again. I'll lower my hand. I just want to say thank you again, Dominic, for holding these sessions and for listening to us. And again, I really wish that the superintendent were here to listen. I hope that he is, listening to recordings of these sessions. I hope that Sohail Katal is listening to these sessions. It's really important that you're not the only person bearing the brunt of all of our concerns and acting as a human shield for your bosses. I just want to say, I've told this story before, but my son, the reason I got involved in this is he goes to a Title I middle school here in LA. The majority of students are below the poverty line. Many students, come from immigrant backgrounds. Um, my son was in a classroom in a highly accelerated math program in the gifted magnet and started failing out of school because every kid in his class was playing Fortnite and watching YouTube shorts during class. And no matter how many times I complained, the school did nothing about it. We were able to get him the help that he needed. We hired a private tutor just to work on executive functioning skills, just to help him stay on task while he was on an internet connected device, which is insane. No family should have to spend that kind of money to do that. And I was fully aware that none of his classmates were in a position to be able to afford that kind of private tutoring. I just want to say one last thing, which is that this year, the start of 7th grade, the school had no district issued devices for the first month of school because of, pandemic funding running out, whatever. So for a month, we had this controlled experiment where there were no devices on campus. And you know what? It was amazing. There were fewer behavioral problems. The social situation improved. The kids at lunch were talking to each other instead of scrolling YouTube. My son reported, Mom, it's incredible. In class, all of the kids are focused on the teacher. We're all doing the same thing instead of being focused on our individual devices. So that's just to say it can be done. We can go back to the way that school was before, and it works better for everyone.
And I think the next who did speak is
Sorry, is that me?
Anna. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you. There's just one more thing I wanted to add about the equity issue. The Google consent form that you're referring to a few times there were two ways to access it. It was sent home as a paper at the beginning of the year, along with all the other papers that we are required to fill out and return. Those are not optional. The paper form for the Google consent form gave no opt-out option. And there was nothing on that piece of paper that stated that our kids' data is going to be sold to third parties. And there was nothing on the piece of paper that said that even filling it out and returning it was optional. That is not equitable. If you do the work and dig into it and get involved with these groups and then go into the online platform, which you have to know how to access, which took me time, I had to call the LAUSD tech office and wait on hold and finally get help to get some PIN number to get inside the portal or whatever. Like, I have the time, the flexibility in my schedule, the bandwidth, and the education to be able to do that, where I could finally get in and see that, yes, I can opt out, which is visible on this hidden portal, but it's not on that piece of paper. That's not equitable. It's not fair. It's not right. And you guys know that.
Kate Brody.
Yeah, I just wanted to piggyback on what everyone's saying about YouTube. I think it would be great if there could be an opt-in model instead of opt-out. The pressure to opt in is so strong. I mean, we're getting tons of emails from the teacher. And I know, like, I opted out, got an email saying, please opt in, continued to opt out. And then that day, my son came home and said he won a gold star for being like the best at listening to the YouTube, whatever. So the opting out also feels like a little bit of a sham. And I think to Todd's point, I didn't realize these were going to be more listening sessions, to be honest, because I don't think that listening session language was on the flyer for these sessions. It would be great to have a feeling that LAUSD has some sort of overarching policy around tech, and it's not totally catch as catch can, up to individual schools. The stakes are just too high. We're talking about small children. This can't be like well, who knows what they have on their device kind of thing. Who knows what they're accessing? There has to be some sort of transparency around, here's what's on your kid's device. This is true for all kindergartners in LAUSD. Here's how you can access this information. It's just crazy. And just on the equity point, I think I'm getting a little bit resentful about the district's position that, this is like, it feels like the implication is that these are privileged white parents complaining, and that maybe, yes, it's good for rich kids to not have access to all this stuff, but there's some benefit for poor kids. And that whole thing just smacks of like separate but equal in a way that is starting to really grate at me. If it's not good for rich kids, it's not good for poor kids. That's just the reality. Whatever the right thing to do is, let's do it for everybody.
Andrea?
I'm just going to continue on with what I was speaking about earlier. Kids with ADHD, anxiety, and other executive functioning deficits, on average, are 3 years behind in terms of being able to self-regulate and have that. You can go out and look for yourself on that, but I'll tell you my personal experience is that what I'm experiencing now with my child, again, the rage, the dysregulation, the yelling at home, causing discord, mimics exactly how it was when she was forced to do Zoom school when she was 7. And her ADHD symptoms got so much worse because she was online all day, every day. It's happening again. She's required to carry this iPad for every single class and use it in every single class, including PE, if they have to do some sort of like, bullying seminar. They have to take a test on their iPads. She gets home, her brain is fatigued. She can't do homework. She is too tired. She gets angry at me when I, ask her, force her to do it because the school refuses to see how this is damaging. How this is damaging neurodivergent kids, not just mine. They won't see it because they have to do it because the district says so. That's not equity.
Andrea. It is 10 o'clock. I want to open it up to last comments from anyone in the group. I know this is specifically around equity and access and what your comments, concerns, questions are about that. So I want to give this last opportunity for anyone who would like to share. Marigold. Go ahead, Lara, followed by Brady.
Hi, sorry. Hello. I might have missed this because I wasn't in the beginning, but Dominic, can you just let me know what the procedure is for this information being passed on?
It's basically giving parents and families opportunity to share concerns, questions, comments around equity and access for this particular hour.
Right. That's not my question. I was asking, how is this information being passed on to all of the other people that you work with and your superiors? Is it being recorded and shown to other people, or are you?
I'm not the Zoom recording. The Zoom recording is for purposes of note taking and capturing, synthesizing all the comments, questions, and I share that in my meetings with my bosses, supervisors.
Okay. That's what I was wondering. Thank you.
So after Lara, it's Brady, and then the last to speak will be Anna and Sandra. Sorry, Sandra.
Yeah, I just wanted to briefly circle back to my original point and also a point Kate was just making about kind of what's good for the rich kids and what's good for kind of everybody else. And the idea of this like substandard educational offering. Just there's a lot of research, and I know we've sent Dominic, we sent all of so much research and spoken on the research, but it is also just common sense that if you walked into a classroom and you saw all the kids reading books, you would think like, wow, this is great. They're all reading. If they were all doing science experiments, if they were all, in a math group figuring out problems, all of these kinds of activities are just common sense. Like we see this is an educational activity. If you walked in and saw all the kids watching YouTube videos, would you feel the same way? If you saw all the kids playing, a cupcake game on iReady, would you feel the same way? So, again, these are substandard educational offerings. This is not the highest quality education. And again, back to my original point, I really feel like it's insulting to cloak that in the terminology of equity and access and the terminology of computer science when it is not computer science.
And the last word will be Sandra's. Anna, go ahead.
I'm sorry. Here I am. Also to get back to this equity question. So my son is in third grade. He is autistic, and he loves these games. He loves screen time. He loves all of these things, but to a point where he dives so deep into these kinds of obsessions as an autistic person. And I think a lot of, incredible people on this Zoom have spoken very eloquently to that point, to the fact that this kind of stimulation is extremely addictive to people with autistic brains, neurodivergent brains. And his obsession is to the point where it is affecting his social relationships with other kids. It is affecting how he is within the classroom ecosystem, and he is not gaining the kinds of social skills that I had hoped he would gain through being in public school. There is also a loss of enjoyment that I've seen in my son especially, but in both of my children, of going to school. This year, they're for the first time saying that they don't want to go to school. They don't like going to school. And when I ask why, my son says, well, I don't like the pressure to get class dojo points, because if I don't get enough class dojo points, then I don't get enough minutes to play Prodigy on Fun Friday. I don't like, like he wants to play the game so much, but he has trouble behaving himself in class enough to get some digital points. I'll finish quickly. He's having a hard time managing his behavior in class, I think because of the screen time he's gaining. And that is limiting his access to a game that then, in another equity twist, pushes paid memberships to kids to ask their parents to pay for special memberships to unlock different features within the game. And that is also not equitable. So it's not equitable to neurodivergent kids and families. It's not equitable to people with disabilities. It's not equitable to people of different income levels. None of this is equitable. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Anna. Lastly, Sandra.
Hi. Yeah, speaking to the equitable, I guess my big question to you, Dominic, is what do you recommend we do as parents to include the parents that can't make this 9 o'clock meeting, or the, random afternoon meetings, or the people that don't know about the studies that are happening right now? Mark Zuckerberg is having a Montessori school in his mansion. What do you recommend how do you recommend we reach out to the community to get them more involved here? Or do you think you're going to take responsibility here so that we don't have to make this a bigger wave? Or what, because we have to do something. Our kids can't be the guinea pigs here. We've done the research. We're here telling you, we're sounding the alarm, and we need to be reassured that something is happening. That I'm looking into it, that's a little rough. Like, if, these are our kids' futures. It's their presents, actually. And if we don't act now, this is really concerning. More people are going to be pulling their kids out, and a lot of people in terms of equitability can't take their kids out, so, and I don't think that's fair. We're depending on this public school system that we pay taxes towards, and we're literally telling you it's not working. So what do you think in terms of equity? I speak Spanish, so I can reach out to the community real quick, but I also don't want to, I want to understand that you are doing something so that it doesn't get super crazy super quick.
Again, this is one way of really doing this kind of grassroots work with you as parents and families. Outside of these big meetings, I'm also going to different schools and hosting this directly with school communities that represent the diversity of LAUSD, new voices, fresh voices that is outside of these regional sessions. So those are just some of the work that we're doing outside of this regional and big Zoom meetings. It's going to be an ongoing work after these listening sessions. The goal is to put together more of this two-way discussion to then present to you what has been done based on your comments, questions, and perspectives, and also to be able to provide that ongoing support to you. So that's in the long term is the point and the purpose of these 4 sessions, 4 prior to Thanksgiving and 4 after, to really come up with concrete solutions and pathway plan for this moving forward. So more to come on that. And I do want to thank each and every one of you for just being really respectful in this engagement. I know, thank you, Leela, for acknowledging that I'm not the only one representing the district. I'm but one part of it. Yes, I may be the director of EdTech and Innovation, but there's multiple pieces to this, multiple components of the district instruction. For example, in reading, language arts, math, I work directly with those different divisions and offices with the lens that I'm bringing in now, with the perspectives that I get from all of you. That's the kind of work that I'm planning to move forward with the district. And rest assured that this is not just going to end up being just a Zoom recording, a Zoom meeting like this. The intent is to really come up with tangible, concrete solutions for our students.
Dominic, will there be an opportunity to speak with those people who apparently need to be involved in this? Can they be on the sessions, or will there be sessions involving them?
That will be something that I will present to them after these listening sessions in ending this December. Is the idea is to really come up with an actual discussions, town halls, like I believe in other offices, other regions, other school level. That's something that parents do with the principals and other regional leaders, right? That's something that I'm going to have to take up the chain of command.
That would be great, because this, I think it was sold as a discussion, and right now it's just been a lot of questions and concerns expressed by myself and the other parents and guardians on this call with very, very little answers.
Correct.
And so even though it was supposed to, it seemed like it was built as more of a discussion rather than a discussion is two ways rather than just a one way.
Correct.
Venting
And that's
session.
why, Todd, like as much as I want to respond to many of your questions, a lot of your questions is going to really require the collaboration from the respective offices that directly work with that specific question you have. While I do confer and are part of everything, much of this content and context of the work is really with the bigger district. And that's something that I want to make sure that it's not just my response representing the district, but it's also the entire district. So thank you for understanding that and for being able to, work with me in getting all of this done. And again, this does not end tomorrow after our listening session tomorrow. This is going to be a continuing collaboration with all of you.
I'm sorry, Dominic, I got to interject, but have you spoken with anybody at the Office of Student Civil Rights for this?
Yes, I speak to everyone in the district, yes.
Yes, but specifically the Office of Student Civil Rights, they take care of the 504s, accommodations, IEPs, et cetera. Have you involved them in these conversations?
Not directly, because this conversation has been with the parent and we have some staff from our student, family, and community engagement. But because these issues have come up here around 504, special education, neurodivergent, then that's a follow-up work that I need to collaborate on.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right. Well, I want to thank you all for joining us this morning. This afternoon, 4 to 5 p.m. is digital citizenship. We hope to see you there.
Thank you.
Thank you.